out, and away we go.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Formula One True North, the Canadian Formula One podcast. Here with the boys, Drew, Thomas, Ed, and we're just coming off a bye week, I guess. Off week, no races this weekend, which was the first time in a few weeks. So we thought this would be the perfect time to dive into some of the juicy news happening in Formula One right now. And we're going to start with the driver's market because it is ever evolving, still lots up in the air. We got Carlos Sainz, we got Haas, we got lots of spaces on the grid. All sorts of thoughts about what's going to happen with Checo, Daniel, Yuki. So much to talk about this. Drew, driver's market, we're mid-July. Where are we at right now? Where do you think this is going?
We're waiting for some chips to fall. I think we need one of the big guys to pull a trigger and make an announcement. There's been a lot of talk online in terms of who's going to be going where. They said, Esteban Ocon signed with Haas. They're waiting until before the Hungarian Grand Prix to make the announcement. Or, so-and-so, Carlos signs with Williams. They're just waiting. But I haven't seen or heard anything, of any sort of fact going on. And so until I see one of these big chips fall, it's going to be tough to really predict who's going to be going where. Like, is someone like Carlos Sainz waiting out for the second seat at Red Bull? Like, are they waiting for that Checo ball to drop in order for him to slide in there? Would that even be a good position for him to be in? Taking a short-term deal with Red Bull for the next couple of years. Is he waiting for a more competitive car? Right? Like, is someone like Red Bull going to do something ballsy, like get rid of Checo and try to pay, Ferrari out in order to pull Carlos Sainz early? Like, is that a possibility? There's so many what ifs and maybes. And, from what I've seen out of Red Bull, they haven't really made some of the best drivers' decisions ever, right? Like, they're kind of always waiting, at least from the way I see it. They're kind of always waiting to have the next Max Verstappen. Like, they're always looking for that one in a lifetime driver to come through the ranks. And if you don't hit certain expectations by a certain point, you're out. And I find a lot of the other teams are much more forgiving in terms of giving them more chances in order to prove themselves, to kind of find their place in Formula One in order to get, comfortable behind the car. Red Bull's like, they don't care if you're halfway through a season. If you're not performing, you're out. And, from my understanding of Checo's agreement, that if he's not within 100 points of Max Verstappen by the summer break, that they can cut him loose. And I don't think it's going to happen. I think the reality is he's a little too far away at this point. And I think Checo might be gone this year. And I was really hoping that he was at least going to get to see the Mexican Grand Prix this year, but it's not looking like that. But that brings up the next point, which is who's going to fill that seat? Are they going to jump down to, what's going on at AlphaTauri? Because they have, or VCarb, I guess, or whatever now, but they have a sister team that they've been able to pull from. And so now you have the likes of Danny Ricciardo and Yuki Tsunoda there. I don't know if Yuki Tsunoda's that guy. They've made it seem very clear that Yuki's not a Red Bull mentality driver. I think they kind of pigeonholed him a little bit to what he was like early days. And Yuki's been performing in a big way. He's matured a lot. And I think he'd be a great fit for that seat, especially if it's only for half a season or a season and a half. But I just don't think that that's going to happen with the comments that Helmut Marko's made and the comments that Christian Horner's made. That brings you to Danny Ricciardo. I don't think he's the guy. As much as my heart would love to see Danny Ricciardo in that second Red Bull seat, just for at least for half a season, I think it's going to be someone like Liam Lawson who's going to come in and make that push, because he's a little bit of a wild card in terms of that. But that seems to be what's going on at Red Bull, and a lot of the other teams kind of go with a more of a sure thing. But when you have a sure thing like Max, maybe you're allowed to pull out those wild cards once in a while. So that's kind of how I see the driver market right now. I kind of went over everything there, but those are just, kind of the positions I see happening, at least in the next couple months.
So based on your points there, Drew, like, I want to look at it from a standpoint that all the teams are definitely looking for something that's a surefire deal and a surefire driver to perform. Case in point, not only because they had secured contracts, but 2024 is the same grid, no matter how you look at it. So that's kind of like the same theme right now. For the way I see Red Bull, I feel like it is a Liam Lawson type of move that they're going to do. But at the end of the day, I think what we really have to look at is, and what all the teams are looking at right now is, where is Carlos Sainz going? Because we fully know, based on all of his actions last year and this year, he wants a team that's going to make him the ace driver, that's going to make him, driver number one. And he wants stability. He wants a team that would, like, literally, like, put all their eggs in his basket, so that, he would have that confidence, he would have that drive to, to perform. And I believe, like, after that ball drops, the rest of the field is going to start to kind of, take shape in terms of what the driver market and what the driver lineup would be for 2025. Because if he doesn't make that decision, because, like, there could be so many areas where Carlos Sainz can land. It can be in Williams. It can be in Mercedes. There's a lot of other things that, he can kind of drop into. So at the end of the day, like, Carlos Sainz needs to make that decision. He needs to know, like, make that decision as to where he's going to land and what team he wants to drive for, and then everything should line up after that.
I think the drivers market is going to look way more solid. We're going to see a better understanding after I think the next race or two, especially coming into the break. I think that's when the dominoes are really going to start to fall and everything's going to come into play. There's a lot of speculation in regards to Carlos Sainz, where his future is going to be, where he's going to go. But I think, I've been talking about it. Is he making the right move or the wrong move? Right now, I think he's making the smart move, holding onto his basket, and as Drew said, waiting for that Red Bull or Mercedes seat, see what's going to be offered up to him, if it is going to be offered up to him. But yeah, in the next couple of races, that's where we're going to see, I think, the ball drop, and everything's going to be a little bit more clearer in regards to everyone in the grid.
So it's interesting to talk about Carlos Sainz, because I think one of the things that he's looking for is to be declared, that number one driver, but he's also looking for longevity in that contract. And I think that's something that no one right now is willing to offer him, especially given the type of talent that we have coming up through the ranks right now. We have a lot of young drivers, a lot of promise, and Carlos, while not an old driver, he's kind of in that mid part of his career, and I think it's similar to what happened with Bottas as well, because he's another guy looking for a seat right now. A 10 race winner, proven winner, good teammate, but again, he's going into it looking for an extended contract as well. So we're looking at, two proven drivers, proven winners who are looking for longevity, not having to kind of renegotiate their contracts, every couple of years, looking for some, I guess as close as you can get to assurance in this sport. But it's going to be something that I think they're both going to be hard pressed to find, given the seats available, especially when you're looking at teams like Red Bull and Mercedes. Do I see signs at Red Bull? No, not necessarily. I don't. Not knowing him at all, obviously, I'm just going to I don't know if he has the personality to go up against someone like Max. I mean, I don't think many people do. As we've seen in the past, Max has been someone who's just absolutely destroyed teammates. And I don't know if his soft, sensitive Spanish sensibilities can kind of stand up to it. I think you need someone cold and like German to kind of take him on. I don't know why. That's just what's coming to me. But I think when there's too many emotions involved, I feel like it's just going to be your downfall. So we will see. But it's going to be interesting, because I'm not sure how many favors he's doing for himself, kind of holding out, waiting. But again, at the same time, it doesn't look like his options are particularly strong either. At least not getting into a competitive car right away. It looks like wherever he goes, it's going to end up being something that's a bit more of a project. And I can understand why that's maybe a little bit hard to swallow, especially coming from a top tier team like Ferrari. Bottas is going to be the other interesting one for me. I'm seeing where he goes. I think he's willing to go to a little bit more of a work in progress. I think something like Williams could be really interesting with him. And I think coming from that team and being part of something that's building could be interesting. So let's see where those two guys go, and I think that's going to dictate the rest of the field to a large degree, and also Checo's performance over these last two races, which we will talk about, I'm sure, going into the Hungary GP preview. Maybe now is as good of a time as ever to jump into that. Let's talk about this race that's coming up. We have a pretty unique track. Mercedes coming off of back-to-back wins, and we have Red Bull hungry to get back on top. McLaren always competitive the last few races. Lots of different factors in play right now. What do we see happening? What are your quick thoughts on Hungary 2024, Drew?
I'm looking forward to it. I'm always a big fan of the Hungaroring. I really think that the top 4 teams have something to prove right now. Red Bull needs to prove that they have that dominance that they've been showing for the last couple of years, and it's starting to slip away a little bit. I think that McLaren has a couple of strategy calls, and they're away, or just a couple strategy calls away from winning some more races. Ferrari has to bounce back. I think some of these upgrade packages that they brought are not it. And I think they just kind of got to go back to the drawing board and pull a few of those off, go back to what was working. And I think Mercedes has some real tricks up their sleeve. And if they continue to progress at the speed they have in the last 3 races, I think we got a 4-horse race now. And that's very exciting for F1 fans. It's been a long time coming. And, it's kind of what happens at the end of regulations before rule changes with the way the teams are able to catch up a little bit, right? So I'm very much looking forward to this. The last half of the season is going to be absolute fire. So I'm super pumped. I'm here for all of it. And I think that Hungaroring is going to be a McLaren track. Just my two cents on that one.
I'm with you there, Drew, because the only team that I'm really looking at right now for the Hungaroring is McLaren. Like, they've messed up so many calls since post Miami. Like, it's just one mistake after the other. And I assume that Zach Brown and Andrea Stella is probably like, okay, we messed up in Barcelona, we messed up in Austria, and then Silverstone was pretty much like another big mistake too. And is it too soon to say that like they have the technical prowess, they have the engineering in their cars, they have a fast car, but are they wasting it this season? Because it feels like it's mostly mistakes, not just from the driver in itself, but also the strategy as well. It's just been like absolutely horrible. And the antithesis of that is Red Bull having like a subpar car at this point in the season and just making like fantastic strategy moves and calls, and just like that's how they're keeping up with the rest of the teams. And the Mercedes has now finally bounced back. Ferrari is nowhere to be found. I don't know what's happening to them. And then the rest of the bottom feeder teams, like they're just like cruising along. But I think the pressure is on for McLaren. They said last year that they were going to take the fight to Red Bull. They are taking the fight to Red Bull, but falling short every single race. So I'm looking forward to see if they're going to cement themselves in the Hungaroring, and then the rest of the season as well. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. Tomas?
This next upcoming race should be a fairly interesting one. Correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I read or heard, I think Red Bull is bringing an upgrade package in this race. I think they are going to absolutely kill it this race. I think Checo's going to kill it this race as well. He had such shitty luck and shitty calls, and we will see a lot during this race how he performs, if he's really out there to perform and stay with Red Bull, or if he's going to be on the back burner and possibly lose his seat. I wouldn't necessarily agree with you, Ed, saying that Mercedes has bounced back. They had a strong race last race, but this race again will tell quite a bit more if they actually have bounced back. With McLaren, not much else to add. Hopefully they're gonna play the right cards and right strategy and be in the fighting. And then the rest of the midfield is midfield, Aston Martin, Ferrari, etc. They're gonna stay there. I'm hoping for better things from them as well, but hopes are honestly pretty low at this point, especially for Aston. So yeah, looking forward to the race.
Ed, you brought up a very good point, and I wasn't sure if this was just like an off-the-cuff comment that you made, but you said something along the lines of Red Bull has a subpar car. And I wanted to touch on that because do you think that Red Bull has the fastest car on the grid right now?
No.
Like over one lap, okay, let's put all the cars on their best day, on their best track. Like in its perfect scenario, do you think Red Bull has the fastest car?
No.
Who does?
McLaren.
I think McLaren has the best all-around car. That's the most forgiving of small things in different tracks. Like it can go to Monaco and do well, and then also go to somewhere like Las Vegas and do well. Like I think it's a well-rounded car, but I still think that Red Bull has the fastest car. I think it has the straight line speed and the downforce to go with it there. I don't know. I don't know if I can for sure say that Red Bull does not have the fastest car. You were very quick to say yeah.
So by that logic, then you're saying McLaren has the most well-rounded car. So
Yes.
does that mean the Red Bull is more track specific? It's only fast in certain conditions?
Yes.
And then which point, why does that make it the fastest?
Red Bull is track specific. And it's historically they've had issues with tracks like Singapore, for example. They're not really good on low downforce tracks. So that's why I keep on saying that McLaren is the fastest in the grid right now. Because overall, you take them to any track. Yes, some of which Red Bull could be faster, but the stopwatch doesn't lie. Like qualifying, they're fast. FP1, FP2, FP3, they're fast. And even Max himself said McLaren has a fast car. And Silverstone just like tells us too that it's all about strategy with Red Bull right now. And that's why I'm quick to answer that.
So I think maybe this is a good time to introduce the topic, the age-old discussion of whether it's a car or a driver, right? Maybe this is a good example where you have a car like McLaren that is well suited for many tracks. It's kind of consistently quick across a schedule. And you have cars like Red Bull, which are maybe more track specific, if that's the, working theory that we're going on. And then you have a driver like Max who is aggressive, who knows how to win, who can drive the shit out of the car. And he can put that car in places that maybe other drivers can't. And you have drivers, younger drivers, or less experienced drivers like Lando and Oscar, who have maybe a more capable car across an entire year, but are still learning how to win. I know this is something I've brought up in the past, but maybe that's where this difference comes in and is more evident, right? So regardless of whether you have the faster car, and you saw this in Mercedes even last year, right? Second half of the year when they started to come on and they had that consistency, right? And they had two drivers that were performing, relatively well, and it eventually got them the second in the championship. So I think regardless of whether the car is fast or not, we also have to go back. I think so often we talk about which car is the fastest, right? But we can't forget to factor in the drivers in this. And I know we talk about it sometimes where it's either or, but it's clearly, a pretty strong mix of the two.
I mean, if we're gonna go down that path, I would say that the car is a fancy pencil. At the end of the day, like if you have, let's say, Max Verstappen driving a Williams, it is a fancy pen, but if you're a crappy driver, you're not gonna be up there. The other side of it too is that if we're gonna look at the car in itself, what you really need to consider is reliability and setup, and then lastly would be pace. Out of those three, if you have those three all together and you've done your homework of the track, you've done your simulator work as well in terms of like how the settings you've set up, and then how you're going to be performing for that single race, that's where it kind of like muddles the comparison between which has more importance, the car or the driver.
Or is it the pencil in this case?
Could be the pencil too.
A
Could be the
really
pencil.
expensive, fancy pencil that goes so fast.
Yeah.
Fast, fancy pencil.
Yeah, I haven't heard it, but
I don't
I'm
agree.
going to stop here because I'm not going to go any further with this pencil analogy. Why don't you agree, Thomas?
Because I just don't agree. Because if you have a nice pen or a pencil,
With what though? Sorry, what don't you agree with?
Just basically with what Ed was saying, more or less. I'm going to use the pen pencil analogy. If you have a fancy pen or pencil and you have shitty handwriting, you have shitty handwriting. You could have the best pen or pencil out there. It has to be a perfect balance. You have to have some decent handwriting and some skill. So man and machine have to have that perfect zen, that perfect balance, and they work for each other, with each other. So that's what I wanted to say. It has to be a balance.
Good. All right. And on that.
And on that
note, maybe we will we'll move on from our in-depth, thrilling dissection of this upcoming race. We're going to move on to a new segment that we just made up last week, and it was kind of fun. It's called What Are the Chances? 3 ridiculous scenarios, and you're going to tell me what the chances are that these things are going to happen. I want to go back to the driver's market because we talked about all the drivers that are still in play, but really the first chip to fall way back when in January, whatever it was Lewis going to Ferrari. That's really what put a lot of this in motion. So we've heard a lot of the reasons that he was leaving. We can think it might have been because of the, trajectory that Mercedes was going at the time. But I think a big part of it was also maybe the term or the length of the offer that they were giving him. So my question to you all is, what are the chances that Lewis would have stayed with Mercedes if they offered him a multi-year agreement beyond just the 2-year, the 1+1, whatever it was? Do you think he would have ended his career there?
Very high. Yeah, chances were very high he would end his career there. I think Lewis has a very loyal bone in his body. I think he's that type of guy that would have retired there. I think that there was, some longevity that Lewis is looking for, especially at this point in his career. And I think Ferrari offered him exactly what they were looking for. And I think the timing of Mercedes not doing so well and Ferrari was on an uptick, that I think he saw an opportunity and wanted to jump on it. And honestly, I don't fault him at all. I think it was a fantastic play. And if you got to end somewhere, it might as well be wearing red, right?
I feel the same way. That if there was like another offer, Toto would be like, here, this is what you asked for. I mean, it's a little too late. And Lewis is at that point in his career now. He not necessarily in the twilight, but he's experienced 7 championships, 8 constructors with the team, and he wants to try driving a Ferrari. He wants to be, he wants to experience the red car, being able to drive the red car with all the greats that have come behind him, and they would want to experience that feeling that, hey, I'm driving for Ferrari, and to finish your career in such a storied team and possibly even getting a championship from that, that's just like legend status at that point. So I think that even if Mercedes would be like, we'll give you we'll give you more money, stay with us, we know that you can win with us. Now, Lewis is gone at this point.
A little bit too late for Mercedes. They could not provide Lewis with the fast enough car soon enough, and Lewis jumped. If they would have been able to do that, yeah, almost 100% Lewis would have stayed with Mercedes. But just the way the trajectory was going, the way the team was performing, as you all touched base upon, he was just not happy there. He was not getting the deal he wanted. He wanted, more stability. He wanted more. He wanted to feel what it's like to win more. So that's why I think he made the move, the jump to Ferrari. But otherwise, he would have stayed with Mercedes, 100%.
Yeah, I actually think it had very little to do with the performance of the car. I think this was like a loyalty thing for him. And I think, going into it and then being with the team that long, having that kind of success, I think you expect a certain type of maybe a reciprocal loyalty from them, or at least, I could see how he would and maybe I would as well. And when they're kind of, having one foot in and one foot out, looking to the future, that they don't want to offer you the kind of length or term that maybe you want. I think that was really the main factor that drove his decision. So I think it was a incredibly high chance that he would still be with them and end his career with them if they had offered him maybe the terms that he was looking for. And by terms, I'm talking about the length of the contract. I don't know if he's really in it for the money. I think it's like the length and the legacy and things like that come along with it. So I think the chances would have been pretty high. On the flip side, you can't fault Toto for like planning for the future, but it is what it is. And how different would that driver's market that we talked about be had that first shoe not dropped? I think things would have been incredibly different. Next up, what are the chances that this weekend at the Hungaroring, Haas outperforms Ferrari? When I say outperforms, I'm going to do total points in the race.
Very low.
They've had a pretty good showing, but Drew, very low.
Yeah.
You think it's a comeback race for Ferrari?
I think so. I think it's a do or die for them to keep their Constructors' Championship hopes alive. I think if Mercedes and McLaren get on a tear, that Ferrari is going to not be able to catch up if they keep slipping at the pace that they're doing right now.
Same, very low. Giving too much credit to Haas, but they're not there yet.
Slim to none. I don't know. They're not going to perform well. I think Ferrari's going to outperform them simply because it's Ferrari, and they're just not going to perform.
I'm going to give it 50-50 because I think Leclerc's had a couple of rough races. You never know what's going to happen. He could find himself at the back of the field, or even Sainz maybe. Magnussen is always a little scrappy and wily and holding people up and not letting them pass. I don't know. I think it's 50-50. I think Hulkenberg has had a couple of strong races. I think that car qualifies well. Same power plant. And I think they've been punching above their weight over the last few races. So I think there's a pretty decent chance that they will outscore Ferrari this weekend. We will see
I'd love
very
to see
shortly.
it.
Who knows? That would be terrible for Ferrari.
Very bad.
Absolutely brutal. I mean, last race, what'd they do? Like, Sainz placed a little bit higher than Hulkenberg, but not by much.
No, both guys got points. It was nice. Honestly, Audi Sauber did an absolutely stellar job picking up Nico, because like Hulkenberg's just been an absolute menace this year in a Haas. And Haas has like overall been looking a little bit un-Haas-like and like getting some points and doing some good things, making some wet tire calls in Canada that like just allow them to, I don't know, be entertaining. We haven't had a lot of hope for Haas ever. So, it's just been nice to see that. But to get back to my point, I think Audi Sauber, that new team picking up Hulk, chef's kiss, baby. Chef's kiss.
Yeah, no, it's looking good. Last one. What are the chances that McLaren, the team, blows a lead this weekend?
Very high. Very high.
They've been pretty good at that the last few weekends.
Yeah. They have been good at one thing. It's been having a fast car and still managing to screw the pooch. And so, I don't know. Yeah, that's just my quick reaction on that is, like you said, Walker, it's one of those scenarios where when you pass the kid the ball and he's great at the sport, but he just doesn't know what to do with it yet. He hasn't got that maturity level of like, okay, ball's in my court, let's go. It's just like it's like a hot potato. As soon as they get it, they're excited they have it, but then they don't know what to do with it. It's like me on prom night.
Yeah, just didn't know what to do with it.
That's it. No idea what to do with it. It was all over too quickly. You know what I mean?
All over too quickly, just too fast.
That's it.
Freshman vibes. Yeah, they have been consistent in like messing up the races. I did say that earlier, but I do want to hope. I would say 50-50. 50-50. I wouldn't say too much into believing in McLaren just yet. So 50-50
To be
chance.
fair with this question, I think 50-50. I don't think you can give 50-50 with this one.
All right.
And maybe I should have given 50-50 with the last one. Maybe that was a cop out of my head. But they either blow a lead or they don't.
Yeah,
they don't.
You're in the way.
They don't. They will not blow a lead.
Is that because they'd never get a lead? That's the other question. So many follow-ups. Anyways, they're not going to blow the lead. Whether they get it or not is...
They are not going to blow the lead. 60-40. I think they already had enough shitty races and they cannot afford another shitty race. So I think they're going to give it all they got, all their best, and going to make the right moves and right calls and not going to blow the lead.
I think they're not going to blow a lead because I don't think they're going to have a lead. I just don't think...
That's ballsy. So you guys just think that McLaren's just kind of SOL in this race, or at least you do, Walker?
I just don't think they're going to have a lead. I just don't, and if they do, I don't think it's going to be commanding. So then, is it blowing a lead if it's not commanding? Probably not. But I just, you know what? I don't have to give a reason. That's just what I think.
Fair enough. Touche.
That's fair.
Enough. All right. I'm the expert here.
Voice of reason.
Voice of reason.
Ladies and gentlemen, the voice of reason of F1 True North.
That's it.
Yeah. The only place I'm a voice of reason is just because of the company that we keep right now. But
that's it.
Let's move on. Another segment. We're going to go to the box. Drew, you want to take this one?
Yeah, mailbox, box. We have our very frequent and friend of the pod, Derek, who has jumped into the mailbox, box. And he has asked about the race stewards and whether or not the race stewards, the ones that hand out the penalties, oversee the races. Yes, that was a question, but yes, should be directly hired by the FIA, and then the follow season around much. So yeah, I guess he's kind of asking whether or not the race stewards should be hired by the FIA or if they should be a completely separate entity. Is that kind of what you guys are reading at the same thing?
Yep.
All right. Well, Derek, thank you for the question. Fantastic. We always appreciate your support.
I don't think they should be hired by the FIA. I think they should be independent. I think they should change from race to race. I think it helps prevent favoritism and all the politicking and all that bullshit that happens in Formula One. I think, you have a consistent race director. Actually, no, they changed that, didn't they?
They have two.
They changed that after... it alternates now.
Yeah.
Like they don't have the same one at every race, but I think that just keeps things fresh. I think different stewards at each race that are track specific, that know the track well, and that are enforcing the rules, I think is actually a good thing because it just prevents any kind of or more, I guess, outside influence theoretically than having them employed by the FIA. Pretty
Don't want
simple.
any backdoor shenanigans with the FIA and the stewards.
Although for sure there's got to be backdoor shenanigans.
There has to be.
Maybe not. I don't know. But you would think at that level with those stakes. I mean, maybe it's just like, I don't know, giving someone like a pit pass. But it's I think the way they have it set up is the right way to go about it.
I mean, I agree to that too. Like, if you have the governing body being able to control who they hire, so at the end of the day, they're hiring these people, they're paying these people. It'd be too one-sided, and there could be, as you said, backdoor dealings. I mean, even FIFA and the referees, that alone is being those referees are being hired by FIFA for football, and it's lots of match fixing that's being done. NBA, they've done that the same thing too. Like there was back in the early 90s, late 90s, that there were match fixings as well. So I think there definitely has to be an independent body. I loved the switching of the race directors because of their knowledge of the track, and on top of that, like there isn't that same consistency on who you're supposed to be talking to. There's not that one single source of truth. There's like a committee now, so it feels a lot better that the racing is more of like an even playing field, quote unquote. But on its face, like it looks good the way it is.
What is the other side of this? Like, what would be the benefit if the FIA hired the race stewards? Like, what I can't imagine there being a benefit to the other side. Like, is it the value and simplicity that like the FIA just controls everything? But I could imagine that being a very dangerous thing if the FIA just had that much power over every single race, because that could be much more easily persuaded and or bought by some of these bigger teams. I don't actually know what the alternate is to what we have now and what the benefit would be to that.
So I think it should be a mix of 50-50. 50, or, let's say there's 10 people, 5 of them should be hired by the FIA, 5 of them should be outsiders. Both sides can bring in the right amount of knowledge and ideas or perspectives. That's my thought. Going back a little bit now to the backdoor dealings and shady business, does this happen? Of course it happens. With any organization when there's so much money involved, it happens no matter who you have. If it's all FIA or if it's all outside, it's going to happen. I guarantee you that. So my I guess opinion would be it would be best to have 50-50, and like I said, just the way that I see it, you have some FIA officials and you have some outsiders, and they can collaborate or make the decisions more together, have different perspectives, and make a decision that way.
I guess, Drew, to your point, the argument for it might be consistency, right? Because that has been one of the perhaps criticisms of the current model, is that there are inconsistencies in whether it's track limits or how they enforce the rules, because really they're there to interpret and enforce the rules and regulations. So I think the argument for it might be a consistent interpretation of the rules, so that when drivers and teams go from track to track, they know what to expect. But as we've all kind of noted, maybe what the cons outweigh any pros that would come with that, perhaps.
Big time.
Anyways, Derek, thank you so much, buddy, for that question. Everyone, check out that Discord. Hit the link in the show notes. Come join the conversation. Lots of great chats there. We always have a good time. And add a question to the box for next week as well. So, boys, we have Hungarian Grand Prix coming up. We're going to look forward to recapping that next week. Right now, I think there's only one way we end an episode like this, and that is with our favorite game. Name that sponsor. Name that sponsor.
The name again is Name that sponsor.
All right, really simple. I'm going to name some sponsors. You're going to tell me which cars they are on and what that company does. Could not be easier. Simple game, hard to actually get right. The first one, these are actually difficult. But the first one for today is Gold Standard. Gold Standard. I need what they do,
Aston
and
Martin
I need
watch
the team
company.
that they sponsor. Okay.
That was wildly confident. I'm not going to pick the same two things, despite him being strangely confident about this. Gold Standard. Let's go on Red Bull, and I'm going to say it is a online like rating system,
Okay.
like Trustpilot.
Yep.
I would say Haas and a trading platform.
All right. Well, Drew, coming out of the gate, getting Red Bull right. Pure luck. Could just tell.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely pure luck. So they are on Red Bull, and Gold Standard enables businesses not only to cut carbon emissions beyond their corporate boundaries, but their projects tackle some of the biggest barriers to global sustainability, including poverty reduction, access to clean energy and water, and conservation of natural ecosystems.
Huh. Just rolls
There
off
you
the
go.
top.
I'm
Interesting.
surprised no one said logistics. I thought that was coming out for sure.
Yeah.
I think
Thomas,
we're over
can I
that
ask
at this
why
point.
you were ridiculously confident with that wrong answer?
I don't know. Something just popped in my head. Aston Martin. Just say Aston Martin and Gold Standard, Gold Watch. I don't know. So just something random.
Okay.
All right. Hey,
Makes
listen, you know
sense.
what?
Logic's
Why
not
not?
there.
You know what? That logic is as good as any other logic ever used in the history of this game,
Fair enough. Touche.
which is almost like none.
None.
Next up is H. Moser and C. H. Moser and C. C spelled C-I-E. I'm probably butchering that part, but
They are on Alpine, and they are a audio manufacturer, like Bang and Olufsen. That's where I was getting that from.
I would say Kicksauber Manufacturing Company.
I'm gonna say Haas. I was gonna say audio, but since Drew said it, I'm gonna say like eyewear glass company.
all right. Just caught the end of that one, which is good. Drew, holy shit, buddy. You got half of it right. Not a
Okay.
full point. Not a full one. But they are an Alpine, and they are a family-owned, fully integrated, independent manufacturer of fine watches. They make some beautiful watches, so go check them out.
Oh.
Alpine, how'd you pull that one out? Just
It
guessing.
sounded French. With
Oh,
the
you
C,
know what?
with the C-I-E, I think that means life in French.
Yeah, it's actually, I think it's a Swiss company, but whatever.
Yeah.
They're close.
Yeah, I think that means life.
They're kind of neighbors.
Yeah, hell yeah.
All right. Drew, on fire. Haven't
Come
seen
on, let's
this kind of
go.
run in a while. All right. Last one is HCL Software. HCL Software.
It's on McLaren, and it is a like database management, helping for like tracking orders and stuff like that.
Okay.
I would say McLaren too, but they are a TV company. TV manufacturing company.
Okay.
I'm gonna say Williams, and I'm gonna say some sort of software with accounting or numbers.
Accounting or numbers.
Yes.
All right. Well, this one is kind of difficult because I don't really know what they do, to be quite honest, because their website is very vague. I will tell you they are on Ferrari, even though you came in incredibly confident with that McLaren answer.
Yeah.
You were just willing it to happen. You just thought,
Yeah,
3 for 3, I
100%.
got this.
I was pushing that over the finish line for sure.
They they are on Ferrari, and they are an Indian multinational information technology consulting company What else do they do? I'm not really sure what they do, to be quite honest. Let's see.
Yeah.
We develop, market, sell, and support solutions in 4 key areas: digital transformation, data analytics, AI, and intelligent automation. So, I don't know. Should we all get a point for that?
The amount of money that these companies pay for some like pit passes is absolutely outstanding. Like, I don't know, like just for some like
no one has
VIP.
been like, oh, I really need a HCL Tech in my life.
Yeah,
Let's sign
that's
up
what
for
I
a
mean.
subscription.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, they're doing something right, because you know what? They are sponsoring teams getting pit passes, and we are not. So
This is true.
hats off to
Yeah.
you, HCL. HCL.
Can we
all
get
right.
a quick tally of like the scores here? Because I'm pretty sure I just got more points this round than Thomas has.
Can we not get a quick tally
Again?
of scores we don't need?
No,
All
we
right,
need a quick
so-
tally.
Get a quick.
Here's where we at. So in second last place, we have our guest from a few weeks ago, Chris. In last place, we have Thomas. So Chris has 4 points. Thomas has 3 points. Ed's coming in second with 7, and Drew pulled ahead. Big week, 10 points in the lead.
Okay.
Double digits.
I'm in the 2 digits. Let's go.
Double digits. I know we're not supposed to really study for this, but I feel like Thomas should get a bit of a pass.
freebies. Yeah. Do we have any Lithuanian sponsors you could softball them or what?
I don't even know. Maybe it's the firewall. Maybe on TV they don't even show sponsors that aren't
Yeah,
Lithuanian.
he's like,
Maybe it's
"What
like
are
blank cars.
sponsors? What are F1 sponsors? It's all right. It's like this. We see these little things.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know how like when you're watching like a hockey game now or like a football game and they have like all the sponsors digitally imposed on the boards or on the ice? That's what they do at Formula 1, except in Lithuania, it's just nothing.
It's nothing.
It's just
They
wheat.
visually impose them off.
It's just like fields of wheat. What else do you guys farm there?
Bad internet.
Okay. All right. You know, that's the right gesture for a podcast. So
Yeah,
we appreciate that, Thomas. Thank you. Gentlemen, it's been fun. This has been Formula 1 True North, the Canadian Formula 1 podcast. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, tell your friends, join the Discord. What else am I missing? Come hit us,
man. All
hit
the
us up
good
on socials, Instagram, TikTok, all the above, YouTube, everything. F1 True North, and we will talk to you next week.
Peace.
It's lights out and away we go.